You will always have the sick and the disabled. The sick and injured are always with us. So says the Lord. So says John the Baptist. So say all of the prophets. So I guess it must have been true in the 9th, 7th, 5th, 4th centuries BC, when the respective prophets noted it, and in the time of Christ. Then it was said again in 5 Shakespearean plays, slightly different phrasings, but the intent is the same. It was said by Queen Elizabeth I, by Benjamin Franklin, by Rousseau, by Teddy Roosevelt, by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, by Eisenhower, Truman, John F. Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Ford, Carter, George H.W. Bush, President Bill Clinton, and most recently, by President Obama. All of these presidents had one thing in common. They sent young men and women to their deaths in combat, and then visited those casualties at Walter Reed Medical Center, or what was a medical center at that time. Upon leaving the wards, all said, "The sick and injured and disabled will always be with us." It is our duty to care for the sick and injured and disabled people among us, whether they be our family members, our friends, our lovers, or our frenemies. We are put here for each other. If we don't tend to and for one another, who will tend us later when we fall? There are insufficient youngsters now to care for the elderly, insufficient children being born to care for the current adults as they age. Of course, I chuckle a bit as I imagine the entitled teens and young adults learning to care for one another, much less their elders. That will definitely be a steep learning curve, as their ability to show empathy is a straight line. 72% have no empathic skill or no empathic learning. I'll be quite happy to be sitting on a cloud, keeping score, out of harm's way. Now, on every hospitalization, I am teaching again. Just as at medical school, doing ethics and discrimination by chart to young residents, most recently, the trio Fluffy, Scruffy, and Ponytail. But most enjoyable, how to properly do a vein puncture to a talented but scared, shaking young Muslim woman who was shown entirely an improper technique. And she failed and failed and failed, and I let her keep trying. And finally I said, "No, let's do it again. This time, deep breath, quick prayer so you are centered, and say to yourself, I can do this." And she just put her head down. I said, "No, say it so you believe it." "Good, now let's do it." So I showed her on my own arm and did the vein puncture myself, and her eyes just bugged. But then I gave the needle to her and I said, "Now you do it. Use a flutterby with butterfly needle. It's a little needle that gives you a lot more room to make a mistake versus a long straight needle where you cannot make a single mistake." After 3 previous fails due to that improper technique, she now did a perfect draw of 5 tubes. And she came back at the end of her shift to say, "No misses today." I hit every vein on the first try. Well, that is a patient's dream technician. And every day that I was there for 2 weeks. She came in to tell me how she did. Though she was Muslim and I was Christian, we had the same one true God. We called him by different names, but he is still the one God. And we both put love first in our faiths, so we could work together. So feel the love of God by whatever name you may call him. We two ended up in the same loving place, regardless of the name, and found love for each other, as commanded despite her veil and my lack of one. There is no hate in the one true God. There is no discrimination, no color, no race, and no gender. These are all creations of humanity to discriminate from other groups. If someone says there is, she or he is not a follower or lover of the one true God. We are all created in the image of God. To hate someone for an intrinsic characteristic is to hate God. The sickness of the soul has only one cure, one medicine which will heal it: forgiveness mixed with love.